He's not a thief. He's my papa!" The girl screamed while they dragged him. Mary June. Carson pressed her bare feet against the splintered porch boards and watched Sheriff Dutch Morley snap handcuffs around her father's wrists. The metal clicked twice. Final, he's not a thief. "He's my papa!" The scream tore from her throat before she could stop it. Jacob Carson looked back at his daughter, blood trickling from his split lip. "Get back inside, Mary June." Deputy Kane spat a stream of tobacco juice into the red dirt. "Shut her up, Dutch! Don't you talk to my daughter." Jacob's voice stayed steady even with his hands cuffed behind his back. "Your daughter's gonna learn what happens to thieves' kids in this county, Mary." June lunged forward. Dutch caught her thin wrist in his thick fingers. "Let go, let go. Someone's got to come get this girl. I don't need nobody. Papa didn't steal nothing." She twisted against Dutch's grip, her feet sliding in the dust. The two men dragged Jacob toward their patrol truck. Mary June broke free and chased after them, falling hard in the dirt, scrambling back up with scraped knees. "Papa! Papa!" Jacob turned his head one last time as Dutch shoved him into the back seat. "Remember what I taught you about the old well, Mary June. Remember everything." The truck kicked up a cloud of red dust as it disappeared down the county road. Mary June stood alone in the settling dirt, fists clenched at her sides. The screen door creaked open behind her. Mary June. Her mother Ellen stepped onto the porch, pale as winter morning. "Mama, they took him." "I know. Baby, we gotta do something." Ellen pulled her daughter close. "We gotta be smart." Mary June broke away from her mother's arms. "They said he stole from the Whitmore family." "Papa wouldn't steal." "Course he wouldn't. Then why?" "Because some people in this county need someone to blame." Ellen stared down the empty road where the dust was still settling. "And your papa's got no protection. We're his protection." Ellen looked at her daughter then, really looked, seeing something new flickering in those young eyes. Something hard. Something that wouldn't break easy? "Yes," Ellen whispered. "I suppose we are." Mary June wiped the blood from her scraped knees with the back of her hand. The sirens were already fading into the distance, but Jacob's words about the old well echoed in her mind. She didn't understand what he meant yet, but she would. She had to. The dust never settled in this county. It just moved from one place to another, covering up what people didn't want seen. Ellen and Mary June tore through Jacob's belongings like women possessed. Dresser drawers pulled out and dumped. Bible pages rifled through. Boot heels checked for hidden compartments. "What exactly are we looking for, Mama?" "Something that proves he didn't do it." "Like what?" Ellen stopped searching and looked at her daughter. "I don't know." Mary June crawled under Jacob's side of the bed and pressed her fingers against the floorboards. One felt loose. She pried it up and found a folded letter underneath. "Mama!" Ellen took the letter. Her face went white as she read. "What's it say?" Ellen crumpled the paper in her fist. "Mama, what's it say?" "It's from Preacher Williams." "About what?" Ellen smoothed the letter back out with shaking hands. She read aloud, "Jacob, you need to stop asking questions about the Whitmore land deal. Some things are better left buried. Your family's safety depends on your silence." Mary June's mouth fell open. "Preacher Williams threatened Papa." "Seems so, but he baptized me. He married you and Papa. People ain't always what they seem, baby." Mary June snatched the letter from her mother's hands and studied it carefully. "This is dated 3 weeks ago, right before the theft. Papa found out something." Mary June's voice turned hard. "Something about the Whitmores. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely." Mary June folded the letter with deliberate care, and they framed him to shut him up. Ellen stared at her daughter. That hardness was growing stronger. "We need to find out what Papa knew." "Mary June, no, Mama. We need to find out what he knew about that land deal. And we need to prove they set him up. This is dangerous. They already took Papa. What else they gonna do?" Ellen considered this. She walked to the bedroom closet and pulled out Jacob's hunting rifle. "Where do we start?" Mary June remembered her father's last words on the porch. "The old well." Papa said, "Remember everything about the old well? The one on Whitmore property?" "That's the one." Ellen checked the rifle's chamber. "Then we'd better get moving before they realize we got this letter." The sun was already sinking toward the horizon as they loaded into Ellen's old truck and headed toward Whitmore Land. Mary, June, and Ellen approached the abandoned well on Whitmore Land as dusk painted the sky blood red. The ancient stone circle sat in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by dead grass and a rusted windmill that hadn't turned in decades. The silence felt wrong, like the earth itself was holding its breath. Why would Papa care about this old thing? Ellen peered down into the well shaft. "Hand me that flashlight." Mary June clicked it on and aimed the beam downward. The light reached maybe 20 feet before hitting black water. "See anything?" "Water and—" Ellen's voice caught in her throat. "Mary June, step back. What is it?" "Step back now." But Mary June pushed forward and looked down. The flashlight beam caught something pale beneath the dark surface. Something that looked like bones. Human bones trapped against the stone walls. Is that— Yes. They stared down at what was clearly a human ribcage floating just beneath the waterline. Ellen backed away from the well's edge, her face white. "How long they been down there?" "Long time. Decades, maybe." "Who is it?" "I don't know." "But your papa must have found out somehow." Mary June aimed the flashlight around the well's rim and noticed fresh tire tracks pressed into the dirt. "Large boot prints, too. Someone else has been here recently." "Who?" "Don't know. But look." Mary June knelt beside the tracks. "These are from a police truck. See the tread pattern?" Ellen examined the prints closely. "Dutch Morley. He knew Papa found the body. That's why they arrested him so fast. Had to get him away before he could tell anyone." A truck engine rumbled in the distance, growing louder. Ellen grabbed Mary June's arm. "Someone's coming. We gotta go." They ran to their truck parked behind a small ridge and slid down into the cab just as headlights swept across the well area. Dutch Morley's patrol truck pulled up next to the stone circle. He got out alone, dragging a heavy metal grate from the truck bed. "Duck down." They watched Dutch wrestle the grate over the well opening and secure it with a thick chain and padlock. "He's covering it up," Mary June whispered. "Now no one can get down there. He's destroying evidence." Dutch climbed back into his truck and drove away, leaving them in darkness. Mary June waited 5 full minutes before getting out. "Where are you going?" "To get a better look." She approached the newly covered well and examined the chain. Industrial strength. But Dutch had missed something. A small piece of faded blue fabric was caught on the rough stone edge. Mary June tugged it free. "Mama, come look." Ellen took the cloth and held it up to the moonlight. "This is from your papa's work shirt. He was here. Before they arrested him, he found the body first." Mary June stared down through the grate at the black water below. "And they took him before he could tell anyone. What do we do now?" Mary June looked at her mother with steel in her young eyes. "We find out who's buried down there, and we make the Dutch pay." Mary June and Ellen parked outside the preacher's house at midnight. Most windows were dark except the kitchen, where a single lamp glowed yellow against the curtains. "You sure about this?" "She wrote that letter. Mrs. Williams wrote it and signed her husband's name." They walked up the front steps and knocked softly. The door opened a crack, revealing Mrs. Williams in her nightgown, eyes red from crying. "Mary June." "Ellen, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk about my husband." Ellen held up the letter. Mrs. Williams looked at the paper and her face crumpled. "Oh God, you found it. Can we come in?" Mrs. Williams opened the door wider, and they stepped into the small kitchen. She sat heavily at the wooden table and buried her face in her hands. "I wrote that letter." "Why?" "Because Harold was too scared to do it himself." She looked up with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Your husband found out about Lily Crow." "Who's Lily Crow?" Mrs. Williams got up and walked to a cabinet. She pulled out a shoebox filled with old photographs and documents. She was a young native woman, 22 years old, beautiful, smart. She handed Mary June a faded photograph of a smiling woman with long black hair. "What happened to her?" "She opposed the Whitmore land grab 30 years ago. Said they had no right to take her people's sacred ground. Said she'd go to the state capitol and testify. And they killed her. Threw her body down the old well." Ellen leaned forward. "Who killed her?" "The Whitmores." "Dutch's father was sheriff then. My Harold saw it happen and kept his mouth shut. Mrs. Williams wiped her eyes with a tissue. They've been blackmailing him ever since. That's why he threatened Papa. Harold didn't want to. But they said they'd destroy him if Jacob kept digging. Mary June studied the photograph of Lily Crow. Who else knows? The corruption goes all the way up. County Judge. State officials. They're all in on it. Will you help us? Mrs. Williams reached into her pocket and pulled out a set of old keys. Church basement. Harold's been hiding documents down there for 30 years. Everything you need to prove what they did. Why are you doing this? Because I'm tired of living with his shame. And because Lily Crow deserves justice. Ellen took the keys. How long do we have? Harold's at a church conference until morning. You better move fast. They stood to leave. Mrs. Williams grabbed Mary June's hand. Be careful, child. These people have killed before. Mary, June, and Ellen descended into the church basement with Mrs. Williams' keys. The air smelled of mold and secrets. Cardboard boxes lined the walls like tombstones. Where do we start? Ellen opened the nearest box. Inside were dozens of legal documents, photographs, and handwritten notes. Jesus Christ, what is it? Look at this. Ellen held up a deed, dated 1952. The Whitmores bought 300 acres of native land for $50. Mary June grabbed another document. This one's from 1967, 500 acres for $25. They've been stealing land for decades. Mary June dug deeper into the box and found a manila envelope marked Lily Crow, 1995. Inside were police reports, witness statements, and more photographs of the young woman. She wasn't the first, Mama, Ellen read over her shoulder. Says here she was organizing other families to fight the land grabs. Going to testify before the state legislature. They killed her to stop her, and they've been killing anyone who gets too close ever since. Mary June found another envelope marked Jacob Carson, 2025. Her hand shook as she opened it. Inside were copies of her father's research notes, maps of Whitmore property, and a list of missing people dating back 50 years. Papa found all of this. That's why they had to stop him. Mama, Dutch is going to kill him in jail. Ellen looked up sharply. What? Think about it. They can't let Papa live. He knows too much. We have to get him out. We can't break him out of jail. But we can make sure the whole town knows the truth. How? Mary June looked around the basement at boxes and boxes of evidence. Sunday service. When everyone's here, you want to confront them in church. I want to expose them in front of God and everybody. Ellen grabbed her daughter's shoulders. Mary June, this is dangerous. These people have murdered. I know what they've done. But someone has to stop them. You're just a child. Not anymore. Mary June picked up Lily Crow's photograph and stared into the young woman's eyes. Lily was going to fight them 30 years ago. Papa was going to fight them last month. Now it's our turn. Ellen looked at her daughter and saw something that both frightened and amazed her. Mary June wasn't the girl who'd screamed on the porch 3 days ago. She was something harder now. Something forged by loss and truth. What do we need to do? Mary June slipped Lily's photograph into her jacket pocket. We need to gather every piece of evidence. And we need to make copies. Then what? Then we wait for Sunday morning. Mary June and Ellen slipped into the back pew of the packed church as Preacher Williams took the pulpit. Dutch Morley sat in the third row with his wife, looking smug. The Whitmore family occupied their usual front row seats like royalty. Today I want to talk about bearing false witness, Williams began, his voice carrying across the silent congregation. Mary June stood up. That's real fitting, preacher. Every head turned. Williams gripped the podium. Mary June, this isn't the time. When is the time? She walked down the center aisle, carrying a cardboard box. When is the time to talk about murder? Sit down, girl. Dutch half rose from his seat. You sit down. Mary June reached the front and stepped up to the pulpit. Williams backed away. 30 years ago, you people killed a young woman named Lily Crow. Gasps rippled through the congregation. Mary June pulled out Lily's photograph and held it high. She was 22. She was fighting to protect her people's sacred land from the Whitmore family. Old man Whitmore shot to his feet. This is ridiculous. They threw her body down the old well on your property. Mary June's voice carried like thunder. The same well Dutch covered up 3 days ago. That's enough. Dutch reached for his service weapon. Mrs. Williams stood from her pew. "Don't you dare draw that gun in God's house." 3 more townspeople rose beside her. Then 5 more. Then 10. "My papa found out what you did." Mary June pulled documents from the box. "Found out about all the families you murdered, all the land you stole, all the lies you told." Dutch's hand froze on his holster. Off the congregation was standing now. "Jacob Carson never stole anything from anybody. You framed him to shut him up. Prove it," Whitmore snarled. Mary June spread police reports and photographs across the pulpit. 50 years of murder, 50 years of stolen land, 50 years of Dutch's family covering it up. "She's lying," Dutch shouted. "Then explain this." Ellen walked forward with the fabric from Jacob's shirt. "Explain why this was at the well. Explain why you covered it up the same night Papa was arrested." The congregation erupted in angry voices. Some defended Dutch and the Whitmores. Others demanded answers. The church split down the middle like a broken bone. Dutch finally drew his weapon. "Everyone shut up." Mrs. Williams stepped in front of him. "Put that away, Dutch. Move!" "No." She stood her ground as other townspeople surrounded Dutch. "You've done enough damage." 2 men wrestled the gun from Dutch's hands. Someone called the state police on their cell phone. Within an hour, Dutch was in handcuffs and Jacob was walking free from the county jail. Mary June sat alone in the front pew as the church emptied, staring at Lily Crow's photograph. Ellen approached and sat beside her. "You did it, baby." Mary June looked at her mother with eyes that had seen too much. "I'm not a baby anymore." Ellen put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. The girl who had screamed on the porch was gone forever, replaced by something harder and infinitely sadder. 1 month later, Mary June knelt beside her father in their vegetable garden. Jacob's hands worked the soil quietly, but the easy conversations they once shared were gone. Prison had carved lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Hand me that trowel." She passed it to him. "Papa, you doing all right?" "I'm home." "That's what matters. But are you all right?" Jacob looked at his daughter. "Are you?" They both knew the answer. Ellen called from the porch, her voice sharper than it used to be. "You all ready to go?" They drove to the new cemetery plot where Lily Crow was finally buried proper. The headstone read, "Lily Crow, 1973-1995. "Justice delayed is not justice denied, Mary." June pulled the faded photograph from her jacket and placed it against the marble. "She would have been 50 this year. Yes, you think she's at peace now?" Jacob considered this. "I think she's not forgotten. Sometimes that's enough." Ellen joined them at the graveside. "The Whitmore trial starts next month." "Good." Dutch got 25 years. Mary June traced Lily's name with her finger. "Mama, why do some fights take so long?" "Because the people in power don't give it up easy. Takes more than one person. Takes more than one generation sometimes." Is that what this was? A generational fight? Maybe. But you finished what Lily started. Mary June stood and looked back at their small house in the distance. She could see what she'd lost in the past month. The easy sleep, the simple trust, the belief that adults always told the truth. But she could also see what she'd gained. Her voice, her strength, her understanding that justice wasn't just about punishment. Sometimes it was about remembering. She walked away from Lily's grave toward home, carrying both the weight of what she'd learned and the power to bear it forward.